Hello, people starting to come in. We'll just wait for a few more people to pop in. I should be running next door, giving Wendy a hug. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do that yet. Virtual hugs, Wendy. We'll see you in a minute. Good morning, everybody. We'll just wait for a few more people to come into our Q&A. As you guys are coming into the room this morning, if you have any questions about this morning, about some of the things that Alexandra and I spoke about, please put them in the chat, and I'm going to be moving my eyes over to the screen so I can see them, but we're happy to answer as many questions as we can in the time we have left this morning. A special thank you to those who just saw our keynote speaker, Wendy Gale, speak. What an amazing story. We are so blessed and so thankful that Wendy was able and willing to share her story this morning. And Wendy, it reminded me of a couple of things that happened to us in the early days of COVID as a staff team, where we were making really difficult decisions about how to continue moving forward, how to address the complexities that we were all facing as a network in this community. And we made the decision to establish that referral line. And so to hear your feedback about how helpful that was and how kind our team was, and the connections to our network it's just so reaffirming to us that we made the right choice, that we made the right decision, because we often just sort of keep moving and don't think about that. We knew that we had lots of people calling, and we knew that we were helping people access the supports they needed, but I don't think we've taken a second to sort of take a deep breath and appreciate how important that step was as an organization to do something a little different and a little that we had never done before. So that was amazing that it was so helpful to you and so many others. So as people are coming in, we've got some questions starting to come in, which is awesome. Derek Ray, good morning, Derek. His question was, what makes your life easier, donated food or donated money? My answer to that question is always both, because we have gaps in our inventory, and sometimes donated food is how we fill those gaps from things that we don't have, donated from our corporate partners. Early on, in the early days of the pandemic, our supply chains were really tight and limited, and it was taking time to get food in. So we were asking for some very specific, most needed items. But right now, those financial donations are helping us do so many things as we pivot and adapt. And we talked about that sort of listening and understanding what the needs are of programs. And we've learned that there's some food needs in our network that we've never been able to meet through donated food. And so we're actually establishing larger funds for food purchase to be able to go and buy those very specific things that we don't obtain through our donation sources. So those financial donations have helped with food purchase this year. They've helped us add some vehicles to our fleet. Some of you may have looked at the expo about the mobile pantry program, which has just been and is going to continue to be a game changer for service delivery in our community. So a little bit of both, but financial donations we can really stretch and have much more of an impact. So thank you for that question. You're going to scroll for me. I have a scroller over here who's helping me. So to both Wendy and Alexander, any particular amazing change due to the pandemic would you definitely continue doing when we exit the pandemic?
For Social Development Center, it was this shift into a bit more of direct service provision, particularly through the Unsheltered campaign, for example. We are, as I said, community development organization, and we always work with people living the experience and telling us what the challenges they are experiencing, but creating, processes and advocacy around it. But with the pandemic, we started really deeply exploring if we are able, through either our associates or community connectors, so sometimes called volunteers, and our staff, to be in direct contact with residents who would need food. And Wendy is absolutely right. We started first with people who were unsheltered, sleeping rough, and so quickly the need through the Unsheltered campaign, many organizations and individuals shifted into precariously housed or housed low-income residents. And the learning was tremendous. How we started and connected talking is also this element of food as so important for connections. We started conversations that we would never have because of what our staff and volunteers learned about the needs and about barriers to access and response. So, for example, the eviction prevention program started very directly with peer workers supporting people who are facing immediate evictions, and learning loads, turning that into system change. So as much as we are more of a community development, organizing groups of residents, I think this direct contact and learning and change it creates is essential. That would say for us, Wendy.
Yeah. And we have a list of sort of really operational things that are going to stay the same, but I think connected to what you said, it's about those community connections and helping. We've always done a lot of work with our network about sort of building capacity. So what can we do as a food bank to help our partners build the capacity when there might be a gap in service delivery, and what is the role we can play? And the mobile pantry program was a big piece of that. So if we have a program that doesn't have the bricks and mortar capacity to deliver a program, can we bring that pantry truck in to be able to provide those supports, in partnership with multiple partners in the community, so that we've always said, no matter where you live in Waterloo Region, you should have access to some type of food program, access to food. How do we do it? It may not be through traditional mainstream bricks and mortar programs anymore. There's different ways of delivering that service and the type of service that we can deliver. So that's a great one. Do you offer culturally diverse foods? Yes. How can we as a community increase our awareness and action on either purchasing, donating culturally appropriate food items for specific demographics? Great questions. So yes, we have really shifted in the last few years to look at food procurement projects for more specific culturally diverse foods. We actually have some programs and partnerships specifically with halal meat products, where we're actually doing some food purchasing. There's some donations. We've reached out to some new vendors. But again, it's about the education and learning and conversations about, for us as a food bank and as our food procurement team is looking for food, is really understanding what those food products are, what is appropriate, what is appropriate for different diets, working with those agency partners on what have you been ordering that we're sending you that may not be appropriate, and how do we shift that order. So if I look back 22 years ago, our food hamper distribution was about macaroni and cheese and cans of tuna. And now there's a lot of choice. There's fresh fruits and vegetables. There's all of the things that can fill sort of more culturally appropriate diets. And every program is different. And so that's where the learning comes in. Lots of conversation, lots of learning. But on the donation side, more to come. There's going to be some interesting things that are happening in the year ahead about how the community can get more engaged in those types of programs. And for those of you who were able to tour our Fresh Approaches Food Center Expo this morning, that is a big piece of our puzzle, having a food center on site that can actually take those fresh fruits and vegetables, which are in high demand from all of our programs, and being able to sort of preserve them and use them during times when we have fewer donations, but also some targeted food purchase programs to be able to fill those gaps too. So that's great. Next. Do you have a way to pick up donations that are perishable from bakeries at the end of the day? Yes, and we do that. I know it's hard because they don't know what they will have left, but sometimes don't have freezer space. Absolutely. And we have a number of food distribution programs or food procurement programs where we do pick up every day. We do still have some donors who will deliver. We do have some amazing retail programs where they do have freezer capacity to store product for us until we're able to go. We have a fleet, a really great fleet of trucks and staff and volunteers who are out. We're actually talking about extending some of our service delivery hours sort of later in the day as well, so that we can actually access more of that product in the community as well. So that's a COVID silver lining, as well as to have some increased flexibility with our staff and volunteer teams, getting more people back in the building finally to be able to do some of those projects. So most needed food items for sure. Ooh, I'm going to ask you this question because the person who asked this question, good morning, Sherry Greeno, we've had this conversation. Do you have any opportunities for children to become involved or any initiatives children can take part in to raise food or funds? And I'm going to take that one step further, but to get kids to engage in some of the work that you're doing to educate them about community development.
And that, again, usually happens through our partner organizations. In 2019, a long-standing dream of ours came to be right before pandemic, which is bringing together different ethnocultural and grassroots groups, some long-standing in the community, some very new, together under the banner of a civic hub Waterloo region. And actually, their activities being in the same space and cross-pollinating, working together, include whole communities, generationally, right? Diversity of languages and cultures, spiritual traditions. That collaboration is precious. And in regards to food, we've been hearing from them exactly how do we provide food in our communities where people have connection to their ancestral lines, to their cultural, rituals and festivals. How do we make it more accessible through robust and stable systems? So that conversation involves children, absolutely, because distribution, right? But then the consumption is a big piece where the connection and the learning happens. So having everybody around the table, KW Community Co-op Kitchen, right? Or African Women's Alliance, all those connections happening in the same space, which is St. John's Church. Our civic hub is there, and different diverse groups, settlers and newcomers coming together and bringing children in where they learn and teach us. Nice. When the consumption and then how we take in food, what is the spiritual connection we make is extremely important, and children are so fresh in all of that to teach us a lot. But truly, how about to the food bank programs?
Yeah, and lots of conversation. We've had some great examples in the last year of kids who have been, learning, have been reaching out and asking us questions. We had some kids do some really great projects where they did some thank you sort of posters for our staff and our volunteers and our partners as part of sort of their learning. But lots of kids who were doing food drives on their own, whether they're be in their classrooms or in their neighborhoods. Somebody just posted that birthday parties are a big one. We see them all the time. We're looking forward to the day where we can actually welcome some of the birthday party kids back in the building, because we used to take them on tours when they dropped off their food donation. And that's really important for us. It's not just about, kids can have a birthday party, can run a food drive in their neighborhood at their school. We want to bring them in someday and have those conversations so that we can extend that learning and their understanding of community and what the issues are and the role that they play in helping to come up with a solution. So that's amazing.
There's no more questions. Richard had there's one question.
Oh, there's a question.
Yeah.
You guys, these are great questions. What has been the obstacles with COVID-19 for your volunteers? Wow, volunteers. So first of all, huge shout out to any volunteer who has been in this building in the last 18 months. The first few months were really difficult. So think way back to when probably most of you were working at home. We had a core group here of about 27 staff and volunteers. We called it our germ bubble. So no masks, because the mask mandated hadn't happened at that point. We kept things super tight and super lean because we wanted to keep as many people safe as possible. We went through some challenges once the mask mandate came out. With masks, we had to be masked and shielded when working in the warehouse, which is really difficult when you're moving around and you're sorting food and you're operating equipment. To have that sort of extra layer of protection was really challenging. But boy, everybody just pivoted and adapted and was so amazing as things constantly changed. I think the hardest part has been not being able to have the large numbers of volunteers in the building. So not being able to do a full food sort for months and months and months was really challenging. So we're slowly getting back to that. We're slowly increasing our limits, following all the public health rules and regulations, but it's been great to have people back. We had our first in-person external event on the weekend, which was so awesome. We were down at Ribfest at Victoria Park, and it was amazing to see our volunteers out and about and in public again. So it's, these little glimmers of normal that I think are going to really help our team get back on their feet and get some work done in the building. So it's great. Question about qualifications for accessing food services. How has it shifted during COVID? Have you had to adjust, be more flexible? Absolutely. So I think the most important thing that people need to understand is that you don't have to qualify to access a service in this a food service in this community. There's no judgment about what is going on in your life that has brought you to make the call to our referral line, that has brought you to the doors of one of our agencies and programs. Our programs ask for some basic information when people are accessing services, and that's because we need to have a better understanding as a community of what some of the issues and challenges are that are bringing people to the door. So we didn't even talk about advocacy this morning because that's a whole other conversation, but we all do advocacy work, provincially, federally, right here in Waterloo Region to talk about some of the root causes and why people are accessing services. But those questions that we ask individuals have nothing to do with their right to access a service. If you are in need of food assistance, that assistance is there. No questions asked, no criteria, no criticism, no judgment. It's we want to create safe spaces for people to have their needs met. The one thing that did change during COVID, though, was the frequency that our programs were delivering services. So a program that maybe was only doing one food hamper a month might have started to do their support weekly. Some did twice a month. It depended on the capacity of the staff and the volunteers, but also the neighborhood in which the programs are running. Are people walking? Are they walking from the program back to their homes? How much can they carry? Are they accessing a program with a vehicle? Then they can take more product. So lots of flexibility. Thank you for asking that question, because we did really, really try to encourage tons of flexibility and adapting. And some of that will shift back to a bit of a new normal, just because, we're all stretched pretty thin as staff and volunteer teams. But again, there's no qualification, I guess is the best way to say that. So thank you for that question.
That's just a comment.
Oh, great comment. Thank you for that, Eric. Love that they had tap options at Ribfest for donations in addition to cash and food. Any plans for further tech adoption? Absolutely. We were just talking about tech. Happy COVID and learning how to, scan QR codes, which are now all over our building for screening. Alexandra learned something very important this morning about her camera. Yeah, I think, technology is we're all getting used to it. Although I would love to be in a room with all of you and to be on the stage, this works. And I think that as we are all not carrying cash anymore, as we're all getting used to scanning things with our phones, as we're all getting used to accessing information about supports and services in really, really different ways in our lives, I think that just trickles down to our organizations as well. We can't escape it.
We can plan a bit, but it's coming, and everybody is going to be more and more engaging through technologies.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And a great example, this event, we had, close to 150 people join us this morning. In the early days of this event, we could only have 80 people in our building. So, we're definitely connecting with more people and having more conversations because of technology too, which I think will also. And then I did hear in one of the expos this morning, somebody was talking about our new inventory system. So just sort of systems and technology that we need to do to operate on a day-to-day basis, whether it be transportation planning or inventory planning, whether it be the collection of data and information that helps us with advocacy work. All of those things are connected to technology, and there's much more efficient and effective ways to operate as an organization, as a business, to better serve the community if we can have those layers of technology to support us. So,
and it's true, there is a diversity of tools as well, and thinking about what may be working for some of the people and not others. We've seen so such an increase during pandemic in donations as well, because we were able to provide a range of distance types of donations, and we have to be mindful who can or cannot access certain tools.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's growing.
Yeah.
It's there.
It's all there. It's all there. Awesome. So there is, so lots of sort of questions and comments. We're going to hopefully capture all of them. So if we missed your question, we will try to sort of do a summary. I think I just put a task on somebody's to-do list that we want to make sure we summarize some of these comments and make sure we answer all of your questions. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning virtually at home. Thank you for those who enjoyed Waffles this morning and got into the spirit of the event, even though it was virtually. I shouldn't say this in my out loud voice, but I am praying for the day that we can come back and be in the building and see you all face to face again. And who knows what additional changes and lessons we are going to learn in the next year before we meet again. But this is a really transformational time for all of our organizations in the community, and taking all of these lessons and learning and the impact of this collaborative work and new relationships and new partnerships. I'm so glad that we met. Thank you, Alexandra, for joining us this morning. Thank you, Wendy Gale, for joining us and telling your story. Thank you for all of you. And thanks for your continued support and donations, and especially our sponsors who continue to ensure that we can run events and still carry on essential work here in the building while we're educating our community and having great conversations. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Hopefully the sun will come out.
It was a really wonderful team here for welcome and support. And I think both me and Wendy, we had a good time.
We had a good time. We're going to keep talking. So you're going to miss that part, but thanks so much.